Welcome to Funnel Reboot, the podcast that shares ideas on how to upgrade your lead generation. Here is your host, Glenn Schmeltzley.
Hey, Glenn here. Welcome to Funnel Reboot. This is the show that explores how we upgrade our lead generation. If this is your first time joining, perhaps you want to go back and check some recent episodes we had. We had one on the use of chat agents for conversing with visitors and strategies for the paid and organic sides of LinkedIn. If you happen to miss those, or you want to get episodes as soon as they're out, please go into your favorite podcast listening app and subscribe, or check them out on funnelreboot.com. This episode, we're going to be talking about what's needed to scale up marketing. And I'm speaking with someone who speaks about this publicly and has scale written all over her resume. She has been a CMO at startups and mid-sized companies and is a strong proponent of helping women develop into taking marketing and other leadership roles. As we talk, let me call your attention to how she scaled herself up from humble beginnings in a tech support job. Listen to her tell about how she always looked to get from where she was working to taking on larger roles. And lastly, hear her take on why marketers should know different roles to produce valuable results that non-marketing executives care about and thus earn their respect. Well, this episode, we're talking about what's needed to scale up marketing. And I'm speaking with someone who knows a lot about this. My next guest is someone who has experience in a startup, in a mid-sized company, in companies that have made world-changing products, and as well as not-for-profit organizations in all of North America in areas that she's passionate about. So I'd like to welcome our guest on today's show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi there. I'm Anastasia Valentine, and you know me, Glenn, but for your listeners, I've got about 25 years in high tech, and that started out in kind of the best place that I think everyone should start out in tech support and really understanding a product from end to end, all the way through to managing an innovation process at $1 billion company, making sure that we're investing in the right products and features and partnering with the right companies, and to my own agency, and now back to technology with Rhonda.ai.
That's fantastic. And you, definitely have your chops as a marketer. And what we're going to talk about today is scaling up. And to me, it kind of happens on a few different layers. And I'd like to start with that layer that you just brought in about, each of us as an individual who has, by hook or by crook, felt our way through this journey that we're taking. And maybe you could tell me, in your own opinion, when you started getting into marketing, what did you think you needed to do to be able to prove your value? What was the kind of thing that you saw that marketing really did and that you could do to put your stamp on something?
Sure. I mean, I stumbled into marketing totally by accident. It wasn't definitely not on purpose. But I think the first thing that I learned, and I learned the hard way, because it was actually when I started up a record label, believe it or not.
Okay.
And what the first thing I realized is that you have to do something different. If you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're going to be lumped into a category. You're going to be judged by what other people are doing. But if you're doing something with totally different, people are going to take notice. So what we did as an indie record label was to put our music out there. Now, this was even before Napster. I'm totally dating myself here. And definitely before streaming, where we would, in our press kits, give out, digital samples of the music and spoken word, depending on the artist, and then also enable it for download from our website. And that was a huge strategic move for us, because we were doing everything grassroots. So I think that's something that's carried forward throughout my career, where we always have to do something different and not follow necessarily. I mean, following trends is kind of boring. I think leading the charge is the way where you want to be.
That's sweet. And I love how you said it's got to be grassroots. And I think of you and I have both been in companies that are at a very small size. And that's exactly what you're doing is, you're grabbing anything you can from anywhere you can to help that. But you've had the benefit also of seeing this zoom up to companies with multiple hundreds of people working in them. And you've gotten along on that ride. Can you give me your thoughts on what marketing has to look like, and what the role is that you have to change in as you're trying to ride that wave and get from a very small grassrootsy feel to more of that larger corporate scaled up?
For sure, for sure. I think the biggest thing that we need to change in terms of the impression of marketing is that it's this black hole where revenue goes and pens and squishy balls come out, right? Like that's just so
Yeah.
old school, right? We need to get to a point where marketing is a discipline, and it's a measurable, has a measurable positive impact on the company, and the way that you measure that impact is through revenue. It's marketing's job to feed the funnel. It's marketing's job to partner with sales, and it's marketing's job to partner with product, just to bring that all together to attract the perfect fit customer, and then be that cycle. So perfect fit customer comes in to get this great product, and then they pay for it, and then they stay on, and then you have this relationship, and it's the revenue that marketing is able to tap into that they should be measured on all the time, every single day. I think that if we let, and I love marketers, I do. If we let marketers get away with vanity metrics and views and downloads and visits and clicks, and not go farther in terms of attributing all those valuable indicators, which is what those are, to money in the bank, we're doing ourselves a disservice, because marketing can be the most valuable part of the growth of an organization.
Well, I mean, you'll get no argument out of me on that, but I agree that the perception, maybe by companies before they've brought in their first marketer, is that it is just a black hole for revenue. And I think that the challenge, until they've actually seen the effect and where the money has actually come back in, and then we can get this wonderful flywheel going. Do you think that that's a challenge to get at least a management team or investors, for that first time before they've actually seen it work? Do you think that's a challenge to kind of convince them before the results are in?
Well, absolutely, especially if you're making your first strategic marketing hire, or whether you're growing a team.
Yep.
So it's getting into that mindset that marketing is very target and goal and revenue driven, just like the sales engine, because it's that integral part of that sales engine and retention engine. So you absolutely have to get buy-in, and I think more importantly, you have to have trust. And that is something that only happens over time. And you have a very finite amount of time to get that trust and to deliver results. So it's being very, very confident in your abilities, having a little bit of wiggle room to try something new and again, differentiate. And then having the support, and that includes budget, behind you to do the things that you want to do to measure the ROI on your spend.
Now, I'm just asking for a friend here because I've never, ever had this happen to me. But when that trust is given, it can be tested. And a test that I think normally comes up, at least for us once in our careers, is where you've said to them, trust me, we want to try to grow revenue in this way. And then you don't get the results that anybody wanted. However, you get data, and the data that comes in might show through the tea leaves some things that you got wrong. What's your advice when someone is in that pickle and they need to tell people that, if more money is given, that you think, because you're data driven, you might be able to get them to the place where they want to go, but you just didn't happen to hit it the first time?
Yeah, well, hopefully you didn't do like a $1 million campaign and have it fall pear-shaped, because
Good point.
You don't have to go all in. And in that way, what I would recommend if you're still in the trust building phase, is that you start small, and have some quick wins. Don't do that $1 million campaign right away. Make sure that you have a solid foundation of some wins that you can draw from, including the data, the tactics, the people, everything, so that when you do go for that big campaign, you have some legs to stand on. And it's not to say that, when you win trust or when you get results one time, you have trust and you're golden, because you're not. Every quarter, every quarter that may not be as good, or every month, even, every deal. It really depends on the size of the company. And marketing should be under that microscope all the time, just like sales is. And in that way, they have a really, really cool partnership. But I would say that you're always building trust. You've got to be in that mode where you're always getting people to understand what you do, the value that you provide. This isn't even marketing, this is everything. And then being able to measure those results.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think part of the way that they can be, and I'm speaking to how you build trust with those non-marketers, is realize you're educating them, and maybe just in terms of data, like just keep it digestible, right? So maybe think hard about which metrics you're going to show them, but then show up each quarter with mostly the same metrics. Don't try to be doing a dog and pony show with all the wonderful data that you can drum up. Just keep it as, all right, remember guys, we were doing this, we were trying to get this number 5% higher, and here's what we did, and here's what the result is. And when I see you guys in another 30 or 90 days, here's the next, you're going to see the same number, but it should be around here. Right. So that it's managing those expectations and just keeping things on track. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think that's good. I think on the flip side, getting people involved is important, and communicating, while things are happening, and even being unafraid to communicate if something is not going well, and making that hard decision to kill that campaign that you've worked really hard on. That's I think the hardest thing for a marketer is to put all the blood, sweat, and tears into this thing that in your gut that's going to work, and for whatever reason, let's use COVID for example. That campaign fell flat, and you know why. But to say, okay, let's pause this, let's just shelve it, let's put it in its box and break it out when the timing is right. Making those hard decisions and then justifying those decisions are really important.
Yes, and if you've included them all along in the thought process and been open about it, then they should be able to be okay with you, and it shouldn't be, we were looking to you to win and you failed, right? It's us, not you and me.
Yeah, I mean, and it should never be like you or me. It really should be like, let's be data driven, let's be fact driven, and make sure you have the right people on board. I mean, it's really important to have that cohesive unit of talented individuals, and I think that's what really gets you halfway there. And then you add technology to the mix, you add creativity to the mix, you add metrics and KPIs, and then you've got this perfect storm that I love so much.
You said adding technology to the mix. We'll get into it more later, but you are with a company that provides an AI tool, and this is something that is, of course, coming fully into marketing and how we use our tech stacks. I'm just wondering, Anastasia, can you tell me what you are thinking AI will do, especially in light of the trust we've been talking about? A lot of us have to admit that if we deploy some AI in our marketing, that we are taking our hands off and we don't always know what it's doing. Do you think that that's going to, really change how marketers are going to be doing their jobs in, the next years or decades?
Well, I think AI helps us do our jobs better, and it's not just marketing, but with the right AI helps us do our jobs better. So it won't take our jobs away, or it won't actually make us relinquish control, because we have to have that, especially if AI is managing budget, for example, like predictive ad spend and bidding and things like that. And creating your audiences. You want that to be accurate. So it does require that human oversight. I would say there's always an element of that. But does it ever take a lot off your plate if it's done right and you can focus on your genius work? So the things that would be more manual process, like bidding on keywords or making creative and determining what works, creating audiences that match your ideal profile, for example. Interacting with customers to answer their most common questions within a certain framework. I mean, all of those things can be automated to provide a really great service and experience. But it also has to have oversight. You can't just kind of let it run wild. It's just like you wouldn't let your kids go run in the street. Why would
Yes.
you let any product like go and do your work for you?
Yeah, it's funny that you said that, actually. A guy named Jim Stern, who's well known in the digital marketing field, talks about AI. He uses the exact same description as you do. He describes it as like figuring out how our roads and our, highway networks work. We didn't immediately have traffic signals. We didn't immediately have curbs. We didn't have one-way directions, yields, all of this. We figured these things out because people were going at the wrong speeds. People were going in the wrong direction. And AI, we're simply at that point where we are providing the oversight. And as we figure out the things that we need to clamp it down on, because they're not going to serve anyone's purposes, we're at the threshold of an interesting age where we're probably going to figure out a lot of those things that we can teach this, youngster AI, and let it really help us rather than letting it run amok like a Hollywood movie shows it, right?
Exactly. I think AI has a bad rap, and I think for a couple of reasons that people expect it to like any kind of new technology, it's going to save the world and solve the problems. And in a lot of cases, sometimes out there's more A than I. So you really have to make sure you're choosing the right tools to fill a very specific need.
Yeah, that's awesome. You have a lot of, I know, advice for people. You're still, like, I would consider you, still at the height of your career, but, you take time, I know, to talk to people who are younger, and you give them, advice on things in their career. If you could, imagine the marketers that are listening to this who might be at the younger end and who are listening to how they need to get involved with AI more, and some of the audience growth tools that you talked about, some of the newer skill sets that are just, abundant. What in general advice would you give them on how they could maybe think of adding skills into their career? How do you like to look at that?
Yeah. So, there's so many ways that you can get up to speed on what AI tools are available now, where the trends are going, and just becoming very knowledgeable about where the tools can fit, and where they can really take a lot of the admin work or mundane work off your plate, so that you can really focus on managing the marketing part of the business, which is what marketing is supposed to do. I would say just go right now. Everything's online, so there's no excuses. Go to places like the Worldwide AI Summit. Just Google AI and marketing. Get on some evaluations for AI tools. Get a real understanding for what it takes to deploy an AI tool, because it's usually not plug and play.
Yes.
And just get your head around what's available and try them. And then what I would recommend to anyone starting out or at any stage in their careers, talk to everyone. Have that conversation. We're also desperate to talk to other people right now. Let's use that as an opportunity and reach out to someone. And you just have to make the ask. It's like, do you have 5 minutes? It's like, you're not asking for a full consultation or a marketing plan. If you want like 10 or 15 minutes of someone's time just to kind of understand where certain things are in terms of the AI maturity or what marketing tactics work, or career advice. Make the ask. The worst they can say is not right now or no. And then there's plenty of other people that can help. And I think you'll find more often than not, talking to everybody works, because and making that ask is usually going to generate a yes, I've got some time, or maybe I've got 10 minutes, maybe I've got an hour. But you never know what seeds you plant now will come to fruition, like in a year from now, 6 months from now. When things start rebounding, and they absolutely will. There's a light at the end of this tunnel.
Yes.
Those connections are going to be gold.
Yeah. I love how you've kind of given both the piece of advice on, sit independently and do your research on things that are technical, but hone your skills at talking with people. And I think one of the things that, if we look back at what you were saying earlier on, how marketers need to be sitting at the table with sales, with other people who are on the purely business side of the continuum, that they need to figure out what those people are looking for. I've talked to far too many marketers who kind of cloister themselves with other marketing people and just talk marketing talk. And they act like they don't understand what is meant when pipeline and revenue and the different expectations that come. And they kind of like, oh man, those other people, why don't they just give me budget and just leave me be? And I can imagine, I know what your advice is going to be to those people.
Oh, you can imagine. All right. Okay, here we go. So in the last two roles, I have insisted that last two great roles that I've had, I've insisted that marketing and sales be under one umbrella. I know, gasp.
Wow.
But for a lot of my career, I've seen that kind of like animosity between sales and marketing when it doesn't have to be. Like, what an amazing partnership you can have from a launch perspective and a stakeholder perspective. And I've seen it work incredibly, incredibly well. And I think that sales and marketing are partners. Like, without each other, you guys are not going to be successful. And ultimately, it's the job of sales and marketing to help grow the company for net new customers. If you're growing the company in that way, they have to partner. You're not only at the table. I mean, you're sharing meals, you're sharing battle scars. You guys are going to market together. So if you have that mindset of sales and marketing being a partnership, then I think a lot of things can go a lot smoother, and you'll get a lot more data from the salespeople who are on the front lines and hearing things every single day that you need. That's valuable data.
Yeah, those tales from the trenches, they're big. I remember some of the best learning I had was sitting with some salespeople. We were actually at an offsite, and funny thing here, I remember the VP of sales. We only had the hotel rooms. We didn't have like an actual conference suite. So he had a large picture mirror in his bedroom, and he brought us in, and he said, "You know what? This last quarter, we have had more losses than wins, and I want to do a win-loss analysis." And he grabs a bar of soap and he walks up to this mirror, right? We didn't have a whiteboard. So, and we actually did, sitting on the beds and, couches. And it was like we were all in it together. And I tell you that in the weeks and months following, the stuff that came out of marketing and that was put to use by sales, if it hadn't have been for that hokey little, get together, that I don't think we would have understood each other quite as well. And it was really, really healthy. So I'm 100% a proponent of what you say about putting sales and marketing together. Mm-hmm. Let's maybe talk even bigger than this, because marketing, I know you're pretty passionate about how marketing actually has the ability to change, like humans, change behavior, change, the kinds of things that get attention in our world, the kind of inequity that is out there. Like, can you maybe tell me a little bit about how you see marketing as something that even gets elevated up into those levels of actually society and the economy? Tell me just a little bit about how you see that.
Well, I mean, it's happening. It's happening. I mean, it's happening online. It's happening when you walk into a mall. It's happening when you go on a website. Marketing is kind of controlling the narrative of what you're seeing in terms of content, and that's based on your behaviors. So if you're probably going to notice it's a little big brother. When you do certain things online, you get certain content that is more visible to you, and this is everything from the news that's served up to you, the ads that's served up to you, the people that are suggested for you. I mean, it's a huge, deep engine. And a lot of that is marketing driven, because we're all about getting the right audience, getting the right content in front of the right people, and getting the right people kind of closer into our circle. So in that way, you're probably going to see marketing control the narrative even more into spaces that you wouldn't expect. So let's even take retail, for example.
Sure.
Shopify's done some great publications on the headless retail store, and that sounds a little morbid, but it's not. It's really going in there and having this experience of you're being completely catered to. This is what you would look like with this outfit. Stand in front of this mirror. This is your budget. Okay, have you tried these things? And you don't actually even talk to a human, which in some ways I think is terribly sad. But in some ways, you're seeing how technology and marketing are kind of really becoming one engine.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's We have a lot of power. And to me, as the old Spider-Man saying, with great power comes great responsibility. I think it's probably fair. And you're one of the few people I know who calls out on this, the kinds of things that you see in our own field that don't, that show we're not quite taking responsibility, or maybe that there are a few of us who do, but there's no reason that any marketer can't rise up and maybe deal with something that they see where marketing just isn't pulling its socks up, or where we're, maybe letting maybe chauvinism or, tribalism come into things. How do you think we as marketers in the 21st century should actually, as we're staring at ourselves, figure out how we can step up and maybe elevate the whole profession of marketing?
I think if we, with all the great things that technology does for us in terms of getting our message in front of the right people, and creating great content and all that stuff, I think we need to have a very human and purpose-driven approach. I think that we need to think beyond the sale, and what is our impact. Let's say we have a campaign. What is our impact on society? What are we portraying here? Is it healthy? Is it positive? Who are we really attracting? Are these the people we want to do business with? I mean, there's a light side and a dark side of everything. And I think that, as marketers, we need to choose the companies we work for, the projects that we work on, and what we can support. Yes. And choose companies that are very conscious about the well-being of others, and the very clear about their values.
Yeah, I love that. And I think we have to, it's funny, AI has kind of brought this into high relief, where we recognize that it's the things about the people that are coding the machines that cause the machines to show unpleasant biases that we as people have. So if you have people, and I'm just using AI as an example, but if you have an all-male team that builds a bot, that bot may tend to give off vibes that are pretty unfriendly to the other genders. So, I think we need to be prepared to be the people who we want to market to. And we also have to, I like what you said about kind of using our conscience to guide our career choices, maybe work for companies where we see that kind of commitment, or maybe a better, representation of genders in the roles. Do you kind of look critically at where you're going to put your time, either on a work side or in your not-for-profit work, and kind of evaluate that before you get yourself involved?
Oh, for sure. I think that one of the reasons, I chose to go where I am today with Rhonda.ai is because it is all about creating exceptional experiences and amazing corporate cultures. And that's something that I'm super passionate about. And having been at, a couple of really great organizations, some even here in town, that have amazing corporate cultures, I don't think I could ever see myself in a place that wouldn't be culture rich and have diversity and be inclusive. And even have some fun. Like that's great, and being able to give back to the community. So I definitely make sure that anything I do at this stage in my career is in complete and 100% alignment with my values. If it's not, then it's just not a good fit. And I thank you very much for the opportunity, but heck no.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's you put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, and I think that if everybody does that, I think if everybody not only finds a place that aligns with their values, but then does everything in their power to make sure that they can contribute to that vision and contribute to those values when they're working for a company, because cultures won't change unless you change them. So and
love it.
See the art of possible, so be the change.
It's very true. And I mean, you're open and honest about this, and you've seen a lot of success in your roles. But I think that even carries down to kind of the reasons why we make some choices. And if, looking at it honestly myself, if I go back to my early career, I might have been setting ambitious goals for myself, but I was probably at that point motivated by things like money or impressive job titles, or, just being able to maybe, use an expense account. And, I think all marketers, and I'm sure you've seen more than most of this, we have we have flirtations with that, right? That is part of what comes in as the gigs get bigger, as the responsibilities get higher. But I bet if you were kind of speaking to younger marketers, you would probably say to them, don't just look at what you can do in growing your career just for discretionary income. Like, look at it as what would you say they should point their goals towards, or what be motivated by instead?
Sure. Like, I mean, if I look back to my first job, which was tech support, and I've got to commend people who do tech support because it's sometimes a thankless job, right?
Yes.
So I would say that, that was just a job. That was just a job. I wasn't really thinking like, okay, where can I go from here? I think if you look at something, if you're not completely fulfilled, look at it as a means to an end. And what else can you do to get yourself where you need to go, whether it's within that company, within that role, or outside in the community, so people can get to know you and you can get the experience you need to do what you love. When we all start out, we're sometimes, saddled with student debt, we're just starting out, things are a little bit, lean, right?
Yep.
So I think it's fair to say that it's not nice to think that someone has the ability to pick and choose, like, no, I don't think I want to work there. I don't think I want to work here. You might not have that flexibility when you start out.
True.
And then as you go on, if you're always building on those skills, always keep learning, always keep your eye out for that company you want to work for. If you're not ready now, ask them what it takes. Ask them what they're looking for. Ask them what you need to improve on in order to be part of that organization. Or, maybe even consider starting that side hustle so that you can go out on your own if that's
right. So that's where it's a means to an end.
That's right. It's a means to an end. And like the side hustle turn full-time gig is not for the faint of heart. So I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, and tell me a little bit more about those between that tech support start, or even if you want to go back to, university days and taking, I think you took law and justice. Like, tell me a little bit about how your own migration happened into, being able to then move to, okay, I'm choosing things because they provide that fulfillment. But yeah, tell me a little bit more about how the whole thing went.
Yeah, it's funny because I did my university during my career. So my intent, my total intent was actually to switch into law, and then I did the quick math and say, I'm going to be pretty old when I'm a lawyer. I don't know if I want to do that, and I'm already mid-career, and I don't know if it makes sense. So what I did was kind of look outside, like what is not fulfilling me, or what would it take to make me, feel that I'm actually making a difference and not just, helping sell software. And I think what was really good for me is that I did make sure that my life had that balance, and that I made sure that the companies that I worked for had those values that I was seeking. And that includes, an incredible team, really, that from talent, from amazing humans, a great product that I can be proud to say that I stand behind, and then a company that gives back to their community in a meaningful way. So with those three things, that's kind of my gauge right now, is that I'm able to do that. And I think that even people who are starting out should start considering that. Maybe not make that your ultimate decision-making criteria, but definitely consider going in that direction so that you can be very comfortable with and being proud of what you do and the contribution that you make.
Is it fair to say that when you were setting out that you had a drive to continuously improve yourself, but even then you might not have known that it was going to end up with, the things like growing, finding yourself in a company where the product is grown and you're eventually acquired, or, working with $1 billion backed companies. Did you know that, or did you kind of have that in your sight set, or were you just at the point of saying, no, in this, next year, I just want to get better?
Yeah, I had no idea. I don't know what was going to happen. I thought maybe.
All right, I don't feel so bad now.
No, if anyone tells you they've got it all figured out and mapped out, they're lying. So, because nobody knows what's going to happen. But you can kind of say, I want to to work for a smaller company who has the potential of being acquired. And then I want to, enjoy the spoils of an exit. Maybe that's utopia, but it's not easy.
Yep.
And I've done it now, I think, 4 or 5 times, and it's a lot of work, but damn, it pays off, and you really get exposure to some excellent minds and experiences. So, but to say that, did I, start working at my tech support job in hopes of this? No way. I had no idea.
And the other thing that I have to call out, because I see it all through your career, and I also think it's not for the faint of heart, is you've had either a side hustle or a volunteer involvement, it seems, all along. It's like, to you don't even look at what is called a full-time job as full-time. It to you seems like just a thing that you need to do for a certain amount of hours in the week. And then I don't know where you find it, but there's another gear that you find that allows you to do these other things. Is that just part of who Anastasia is?
Yeah, I have a weird time management approach, and that is that you give the time, you prioritize your time ruthlessly. You give the time to what needs your time most at that time. So if it's my kids, then it's my kids and they get me 100%. If it's my work and it needs me, they get me 100%. If it's my charity work, and then that's what needs me, they get me 100%. But I don't try to do the multitasking thing. And, sometimes it's a, 16, 20-hour day. Sometimes it's not. And I think it's just giving the time that whatever your passion needs, at the time when it needs it. And I think if you're able to, because I can't compartmentalize and say, my job is from 8:30 to 5 o'clock, and then I have family time, and then I have, philanthropy time. It just doesn't work for me. I have to be able to live and do my thing as it needs to be done. And that works really, really, really well, as long as you're meeting all of your obligations, kicking ass at every turn, not with kids, obviously. And then, having fun. We take things so terribly seriously. I think at the end of the day, we need to look at the impact we're making in the world and how we feel as humans.
And you definitely kind of take that weight. Just back on the kind of how time is split up, even terms like work-life balance, I find get it wrong by making it seem that we have to, like we're running a taxi meter, and that we have to dole out a certain amount of time for each. They're not in balance. As you just said, you might be 100% into one thing, and then you switch and you're all in on family stuff. And those things are going to be they're going to mesh somehow if you can harmonize them, but you're not trying to get them so that they are deliberately offsetting each other, in some kind of, hourly quota, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like, I'm not trying to be the be all and end all to everything. I know what I do really well. And then I know where my strengths are, and I know where, especially when my team is concerned, where their strengths are. And that's where we can play off of each other and leverage each other. And not being afraid to say, like, when I talk to our CTO, sometimes I'm like, I have no idea how this works. Could you just help me understand, or could you help me with this technical problem that we're trying to solve? And it's just such a really great way to surround yourself with really talented people and learn all the time. And it really doesn't matter whether it's at work or at play.
Yeah, I love it. It just seems so clear to me that, we've been talking about scale up, and you look for scale, and you look for scale sometimes in other people, but you also look very much inwardly at yourself and ask how you can scale up. And I also see sometimes how you even speak on behalf of marketers as a whole and help us all, scale up in terms of what we're able to provide for the companies we work for maybe our economies. And, this is a really important time where that's needed. Anastasia, thank you so much for coming on, and to just tell people if they want to reach out and say hi. You're on like every social platform imaginable, but where would you point some people if they wanted to do that?
Oh gosh, I want everyone to know about Rhonda.ai. So if you want to just check out to see how we help keep employees engaged, just check us out and visit at Rhonda.ai. But if you want to follow me and my rantings, I'm on in LinkedIn. Check me out there, or follow me on Twitter at AVV.
All right. Yeah, no, appreciate that. We'll have all those links in the show notes. And I know there will be some people who are interested on the employee engagement front, and there will be people interested in, seeing some of the stuff that you've done, the speaking, the, writings, there's just so much there. So listen, can't thank you enough. And I just want to say thanks once more for being so open and giving people a real window into how you see this.
That's amazing. Thank you for having me on the show.
Hey, thanks.
Thanks for listening. Follow the show on Twitter at Funnel Reboot. If you like what you have heard today, please consider leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts.